Hello class, welcome back. We're going to be going through lesson 11A, which is a continuation from our prior lesson. This is considered part 2 of contract clauses and documents. So we're going to break this up into two parts. One is to talk about the terms and some of the application of those, and then we'll get into more detail on the application of that. Notice that this is a lesson 11A. 11B is the in-class exercise that we will not be doing on this recorded video. So professional standard of care is the first and foremost important of the terms that we're going to use. Standard of care, I want you to memorize this statement. There's 4 qualities to it. What is reasonably expected by a professional in their discipline as it would be performed by other professionals under the same or similar circumstances, with the same level of training and experience in the same geographical location. Those are 4 tests for standard of care that I want you to have memorized for the final exam. Next, we talk about negligence, a huge area to understand. But negligence is a failure in exercise of care that a reasonably prudent person would exercise in like circumstances. The area of tort law is known as negligence and involves harm caused by carelessness or not intentional harm. It's what we call essentially the legal definition of being wrong. And this can take on a whole variety of forms. It could be an honest mistake that was made to showing up to work drunk and somebody gets seriously hurt. You think, well, you intentionally did that because of the condition you arrived in. Either one of them has various levels of negligence. So let me throw out 2 potential examples to you. Number 1, if an employer fails to follow Cal OSHA guidelines and other workplace safety rules, is that negligence? The answer to that might be, it sounds like it is, but it really isn't. Why? Nobody got hurt. There was no damage. So while it was very risky behavior, there was nothing wrong with it. A professional, in terms of somebody getting hurt, a professional who follows current building code guidelines and the building collapses, is there negligence? Possibly. Maybe there is something that even though the code was followed, there was an inappropriate application of the code. And that's something we'll only find out with further investigation. So while we would think that the first answer is yes, there's negligence, it's not, because there's no hurt or damage. Whereas in the second example, we're not sure. It appears that there could be some negligence, but we'll have to verify that with investigation. Understand direct damages are those that a reasonable, ordinary, or prudent person would expect a non-breaching party to suffer from a breach, or someone who's a stranger or not a party to it. So when we look at examples, look at these photos. The first one is a crane has fallen onto a car. Now I'm assuming the car is not related to an owner related to the contracting of construction, but that person with the car has suffered direct damages from the crane falling over. Likewise, in the photo at the bottom of the slide, a bridge collapsed. The city constructed it with a contractor, and there was a failure. There is a damage to public facilities, and those are direct damages. Who suffered? It would be the owner of these either vehicle or equipment. The breaching party would be the crane operator or the bridge installer. And the damages would be significant, and you could just go through and imagine what those are. And I've only pointed out the more obvious ones. Using an example of San Francisco's Millennium Tower, which is still a tower that's going through settlement, in 2009 it had sunk 17 inches and another 14 inches tilt. You can only imagine the direct damages to the owners of the individual condominiums and the association that manages that. And there was a substantial amount of litigation associated with that. Indirect damages are not necessarily related to the direct parties, so they go beyond the direct damages suffered by the non-breaching party. That a reasonable, ordinary, and prudent person would not expect, Because of the consequential damages, they require some familiarity, not only with the contract itself, but also with the non-breaching party and what the fallout of that is. Let's go back to some of our photos. So the crane falls. The crane has hit a car and there's some direct damages. But now the crane has blocked the exit for some of the buildings along the road. Those would be some of the indirect damages, or people can't use the roadway and maybe there's a critical link of the road or the utilities in the road, and those are indirect damages to the parties. So who suffered indirectly, and what could those damages be? Going back to the Millennial Tower, there's some settlement issues with the sidewalk. Now the pedestrians have some impact from it, and so they become indirectly damaged by what's happening. We're going to pause here as we break into the next session.